Hello, everybody. This is Mark Lucchese, also known as Mark at the Mic, and welcome to another podcast sponsored by the Burlingame Historical Society. Before I bring on our guest today, Irene Preston, owner of Prestons Candy and Ice Cream, I'd like to present you a short intro about the historic candy and ice cream shop. Prestons Candy and Ice Cream, the Burlingame maker of fine chocolates and other sweets, recently celebrated 75 years in business on October 16, 2021. That would make Prestons one of the longest operating businesses in Burlingame. I'd say that's quite an honor. Located on the Broadway strip of Burlingame, Prestons is renowned for being an authentic candy and ice cream shop that still uses traditional methods today. Stepping inside the old-time storefront with its checkerboard floors and 1950s wallpaper evokes a nostalgia increasingly hard to find in a world where small-scale makers and artisans are often displaced from brick-and-mortar to online stores. In 1946, Arthur Preston set up his candy shop on Broadway, Burlingame. His background in candy making came from two prominent Bay Area candy shops, namely Shaw's Candy and Ice Cream and Blum's Confections. He attributed his skills to the mentorship of Shaw's Candy and Ice Cream owner Douglas Shaw. In 2001, Arthur Preston sold his shop to George Preston, a chemical engineer, and his wife Irene, a former traveling art teacher and graphic designer. Irene, thank you for sharing your time with us today. I know you're very busy coming off the holiday season, and now you're preparing for Valentine's Day a month away. How do you find time to catch your breath?
I'm not.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. You go from one holiday into the next, and I'm sure...
It's a little schizophrenic. Yes, it is.
Yes, I'm sure Valentine's is gearing up quickly here. What is it, about 3 weeks away, something like that?
Mm-hmm. And I'm already planning Easter.
Yeah, that and right after that's Mother's Day.
That's right.
So I want to know, how does a former art teacher and graphic designer transition to owning a candy and ice cream shop? You have to get that, don't you?
I do. Sorry.
Okay, we're gonna pause. Okay, Irene, I was just wondering how a art teacher and graphic designer transitions to owning a candy and ice cream shop.
I call it karmic convergence.
What does that mean?
It means there are certain things beyond our control, and all of a sudden you find yourself in another situation totally unprepared.
Okay, so how did you learn the business?
I actually knew the Prestons for 18 years before we took over, because I found Art's chocolates, and I never went back to my daily Snickers bar.
Yeah, that never happened. Did Art stay on with you guys for a while after you took over?
I worked with Art for about 3 years.
Oh, you did?
Uh-huh.
Pretty good guy, huh?
Yes.
I'll give you a very quick sidebar. He earned candy making from the great Douglas Shaw. Mm-hmm. Well, Doug Shaw's grandson was a roommate of mine when we went to college. Yeah, many years ago. So
okay.
Anyway, the store is open 7 days a week, opening 11 a.m. each day?
Sunday's opening at 1.
Okay.
But we close at 6 every day.
What time do you normally get here?
Oh, it just really depends a lot on what needs to be done.
Yeah. Do you get here like at maybe 9 or 10 or anything like that?
No, usually around about 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, so it's kind of a long day.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody calls in sick, you're kind of working all day, I guess, and maybe a little longer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And how many days a week do you work?
I'm here every day.
7 days?
Yes.
It's amazing. Boy, oh boy, that's the life of the small business person,
That's
huh?
what it is.
Yes. So with the whole employee thing, how many full-time and how many part-time folks do you have?
I have no full-time employees now.
Some part-time?
They are all part-time.
And hopefully they come in.
Well, it depends a lot on COVID right now.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And so that's probably some of the challenges you've had during this whole time, is retaining employees.
Yes, and also the fact that they have very little control sometimes of what's happening to their lives.
Right, Right. They may not feel ill, but if they were around somebody that was positive, they're automatically taken out of the
That's right.
store lineup.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. So Irene, what are some of the challenges with maintaining the quality of your merchandise? How do you maintain all this good stuff that you have here?
Well, I don't want to sell something that I'm not going to be very happy about.
Okay.
That's the bottom line.
And that brings up a good question. What's the lifespan of chocolate? If I bought something today, a nice pure piece of chocolate, what could I expect? How long would it last that it still has good quality?
If you keep it in temperature so that it doesn't go high and doesn't go low, and if it's dark chocolate, you could conceivably keep it for about 2 years.
No kidding.
But milk chocolate is much
more perishable.
Yes, because of all the milk fats.
Yes,
but that means though is that you have to be really careful, and you don't put chocolate in the refrigerator.
Right. Really? I'll have to tell my wife to get my Snickers bar out of the refrigerator.
Yes. Well, it's because the atmosphere in a refrigerator is quite moist.
Yeah.
And chocolate does not like water.
So what do you do with expired product? If something does expire in your, if it's gone bad or whatever, what do you just toss it, or is there a way that you recycle it?
If it's just chocolate, we could remelt it. You know, like Santa Clauses can come back as Easter bunnies.
Okay, great.
But if it's candy that has been cooked and has not sold, I usually donate it.
Okay, good. And what would you say is your signature item here at Prestons in the candy section?
It depends on who you're talking to.
Okay.
Because we've been here for such a long time, we actually work with about 3 or 4 generations in a family.
Yeah.
And so there are some candies that are particularly liked by that one's family. So that becomes the favorite. And so we have about 4 to 5 candies that are in that category.
I've heard the peanut brittle here is very well. I've heard that from my wife. In fact, I'm supposed to pick some up before I go home. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very specific because we have a very specific peanut that we work with. We have it's hand-stretched peanut brittle, which you do not usually have. And we have the very good equipment to be able to maintain that quality.
That's great. So moving forward then, do you carry like any gluten-free candy or sugar-free or kosher confections, anything like that?
Yes, all of above.
No kidding. Boy, that's very good variety. Okay, so let's move from candy. What about ice cream? How many flavors do you carry?
It depends on the time of the year. We are no longer making the ice cream here because of the requirements by the health department that we cannot sterilize all of the equipment that we used before, because everything has to be steam cleaned now. And so I have to rely on manufacturers.
An outside vendor.
Right. But they are the same ones. It's the same recipes. Lord's ice cream and Preston's ice cream were the same because they shared recipes for 50 years.
Great. That's nice that you can count on an outside vendor to use the recipe that you provided to bring the same quality that you've had for years.
Oh, yes, right. And then I work with them on developing the quality of the ingredients oftentimes. And I also have 2 or 3 other ice cream manufacturers that I'm bringing in ice cream that we do not make.
Yeah.
But I want to have a good variety for the customers.
And what's your most popular flavor?
Vanilla.
Vanilla. Yeah. Is it just regular vanilla or French vanilla or just regular good old?
No, it's just very good vanilla.
Good old-fashioned vanilla.
Well, all of it is depending upon the quality of the ingredients. The same thing with the candies too. If you don't have good ingredients, you don't have a good quality.
Yeah. Is there any certain ways that you promote your store?
Well, we've tried various things. Oftentimes, the traditional ways of publicizing no longer work. And so we now have an Instagram.
Yep.
We now are looking at developing the website so we could do some more on-time ordering. We are also developing some other kinds of things besides our candy and ice cream.
Yeah. That's interesting you said the web page, because I've seen the web page. And how successful has it been for you? You trying to develop it more? I mean, has it been pretty good?
We're actually creating a totally new one.
You are.
That website goes back a long ways.
Yeah.
And we actually use it as a reference. So because a lot of the candies that are on there, we've changed. The look has changed. Of course, the prices have changed quite a bit.
Yep.
And also the fact that people's tastes have changed. So when I first came in, we have 2 big bowls of chocolate that we work with. And the bigger one was milk chocolate. And now it is dark chocolate.
Yeah. Dark chocolate's really become a very popular item.
It's very different. We're also creating vegan chocolate, and of course sugar-free chocolate. We base everything on guitar chocolate, but we do some modifications.
Yes, and guitar chocolate is in here in Burlingame as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
They go back a long ways.
Who's helping you? You said we. Who's assisting you with this?
I have 2 candy makers that I work with, but they are both part-time.
Yeah.
And most of the time when we're working together, I'm teaching one who's started off. He's not full-time. He works for a totally different job, but he came to one of my candy classes and came back afterwards and said he'd like to learn how to make candy. So I've been working with him for 3 years.
Yeah, wow.
And so I figure out some of the candies that he's already gotten through and knows how to do, and then I bring up the next one that I think he should be trying out. But he's turning out to be a very good candy maker.
So you used to do candy lessons here at the shop,
That's
didn't
right.
you? But that probably stopped during...
Can't do anything until COVID is gone.
So we're going to move to, that's going to be our next little thing here, our favorite subject, mine and yours, because I went through it for a year or 2 at Molly Stone's. We're getting close to starting our 3rd year of the virus in March. But what's it been like, Irene? What's it been like?
It's unreal. The first year, we were pretty much closed for 7 months.
Really? Wow.
I know
Boy.
we've been trying to make up for it ever since. The second year, we had to do some adjustments, and I tried a lot of different things, but it really comes down to being supported by the neighborhood and by our customers. As I said, we have 3 and 4 generations of customers.
I know you do.
And so some of those people are not even in Burlingame. But when it's the time for the season for their candy, they're calling me up and saying, when are the caramel apples going to be ready? When is the Thin Mint going to be ready? Where is the honeycomb? Where is the rocky road? I mean, it goes on and on.
Were you still coming to the shop every day when the pandemic first started?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Were you coming with anybody else? Was anybody else coming with you, an employee or 2? Are the candy makers still showing up?
The candy makers were showing up, but it was very truncated times.
Yeah.
We were really not producing too much. When the first 2019, we were already 3/4 of the way of making all the candy for the city's Easter egg hunt, which is a lot of candy.
It's big. I know it's big.
Yeah, it's 35.
It's been that way for many years.
Yes, it's over 3,500 pieces of candy.
My gosh.
And we were almost done with it. So I had a lady who was helping me, and we ended up making half-pound bags of candy, which were then distributed out by Katya's plumbing guys, and they distributed out to the fire stations and the police departments and the hospitals, because we already had the candy made.
That was Katya's Plumbing, right? You're
Yeah.
referencing that?
We work very closely with them with the Easter egg hunt, because that's sponsored by the Lions Club, and so they distributed out all the bags.
Yeah.
But it was very good, because these were people, they were all frontline people and had no time to even think about Easter for their families.
Yeah.
And so this was a good thing for us to be able to do.
So Irene, I think you've been doing this, I think I said earlier, about 21 years now here, since you've taken the shop over, right?
Actually, it's
22?
24 years.
24 years, okay. So going forward, any thoughts of retiring?
Yeah.
Yeah?
But, we've lost so much money. I'm really having to, I really have had to tighten the belt, and it's been problematic about whether I'm going to be able to get out of it. But, I'm hopeful, and I've had some offers but it's always people thinking about how they could mechanize, or how they could expand what we're doing and modifying the processes so that it's really not the same product anymore.
It won't be the same product, you're absolutely right.
So I have to be really careful about who comes in.
You don't want to damage that Preston name that's been
well,
so
I've
prestigious.
I've trained 5 candy makers.
Yeah.
But none of them have been able to stay here, because they were all young men.
Yeah.
And they all wanted to start their families, and they could not afford.
Not going to do it around here.
Couldn't afford, so they've all moved out of the area.
Yeah.
So I'm back to. In fact, I actually have a couple of retirees who are now thinking about doing a second round of doing something, and making candy is very attractive. So we'll see what happens out of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk Leslie McQuaid, a Burlingame Historical Society member, and I know she comes here into working for you a little bit part-time. So.
Yes, I'm hoping she can.
Yeah, she'd be great.
Yeah, we have some very, very wonderful customers who are personally responsible for this, for committing to keeping Prestons going.
Yeah.
So they're the ones who have been able to keep me going, actually.
So one last question. You're working every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when you get home?
Well, I feed my cat, which is essential. That's number one job.
Yeah.
And then I usually cook on Sundays, so that's how I can have food to eat
For the week.
Not the week, because that would be totally boring.
Yeah.
But at least the pressure's off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of reading, and thank goodness for the Burlingame Library.
Yeah, isn't that great?
They were able to keep open enough so that I had things to read. I don't have much time for television.
No, that doesn't sound like it, Irene. No, it doesn't sound like it. Well, you're a true gem in this area, and the shop is, historic. So what can you say about 75 years in business? It's amazing. So, Irene, I'm telling our listeners out there that you have a former employee who just walked in to say hello to you, manning the register right now, and you asked me for 20 minutes of time, or you requested 20 minutes, and we're almost at 20 minutes. So I want to thank you so much for giving us your time today, and it's certainly difficult being a small business owner today during this pandemic. Thank you very much, Irene Preston.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
We would like to thank our guest, Irene Preston, owner of Preston's Candy and Ice Cream, for being our guest today on Burlingame. It's a small town, sponsored by the Burlingame Historical Society. Thanks to the San Mateo Daily Journal and Richard Moya for providing background information, Bray, our musical director, my daughter-in-law Shelby for producing, my wife Kathy for editing, and our videographer, the great Ray Tyler. The Burlingame Historical Society copyrights this video podcast, and no part of this program can be rebroadcast without permission. So until next time, everybody, see you around Burlingame. It's a small town.